Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Tootsie, starring Dustin Hoffman, Jessica Lange, Terry Garr, Dabney Coleman, Charles Durning, and Bill Murray, directed by Sidney Pollack. Now, this is one of the originals I've seen. I have not seen this movie before, but I've seen the other ones like Joanna Man, White Chicks, and Big Mama's House, and all failed successfully until you. But you got this movie, and let's see how this goes, because I've never seen this before. Michael Dorsey, played by Dustin Hoffman, is an unsuccessful actor living in New York City as he teaches younger actors to act, and it shows he's very unsuccessful as he goes to a restaurant to meet with his best friend Jeff Slater, played by Bill Murray, before he was ever in Ghostbusters. As he takes him to a surprise party made for Michael, and his friends celebrate him on the day of his birth, and the performance by Dustin Hoffman is the best thing about the movie, while Bill Murray is hilarious in this. Michael walks his neurotic friend Sandy Lester, played by Terry Garr, who's going to an audition the next day. She fears she won't get, as Michael trains her for an audition and comes with her to train some more while it's late at night time. As the day comes and the audition happens, and she didn't get it because they wouldn't let Sandy read the part. As he learns someone is playing a part that Michael is supposed to play, as he goes to his agent George Fields, played by the movie's director Sidney Pollack, and have an argument about how somebody else is taking over his role in a play, and he says nobody will hire him. And I know this is one of the originals when it comes to this story, as this has been done a million times after this, but the plot feels predictable after seeing so many of these movies in life that came after this, as this is the best example of any of the movies that I've named that has been done before. Michael disguises himself as a woman named Dorothy Michaels to audition for a play directed by Ron Carlisle, played by Dabney Coleman, and he sends Dorothy to the room, and his agent gives her a reading and gets her papers to put together, and Dorothy meets Julie Nichols, played by Jessica Lange, and Michael, as Dorothy, reads the part, and she nails it, and Michael goes to George as Dorothy and says she got the part while he begged her to get therapy, and does some more things as Dorothy, and Michael disguised as Dorothy is the funniest thing in this whole movie. Michael celebrates with Sandy and tries on some of her clothes until he gets caught, and he smooches Sandy, and he tells Sandy they'll see each other the next day, and he disguises himself as Dorothy by putting on some makeup with other women products and shows Jeff and gets a taxi cab to her first day at the show, and she arrives and meets April Page, played by Gina Davis. And they go through the day while Dorothy meets John Van Horn, as well as Julie, as they act in the show as John kisses Dorothy, which is amusing in a sick way. And Jessica Lange stole the show, in my opinion, from Dustin Hoffman and the other actors, in my opinion. Michael tells Jeff Ron treating Julie terribly, and the phone rings as Jeff wants to pick up the phone, which will probably be for Dorothy, or it could be for Michael, or it could be for Jeff. And Michael gets sick of from kissing John and can't meet Sandy, and they go on the day by day. Meanwhile, Dorothy makes ad libs behind Ron's back by touching John's face, and Dorothy catches April kissing someone and talks with Julie as she invites her to read some lines with her, as she'll make her something to eat while bringing her flowers, and we learn Julie has a child of her own, and the writing in this is very good, and the cinematography is also very good. While at Julie's apartment, she talks about Ron as a lovely man, while he treats her like crap. And the acting in this is tremendous throughout, in my opinion. And Dorothy leaves Julie's apartment, and Michael comes over to Sandy's place 3 hours late. And she sees Julie is in the show she was interested in, and she calls her a cow. And we move on to the next day, and Dorothy ad libs once again, while Ron is upset about it every single time, as Dorothy becomes a model and gets on magazines, including the TV Guide, and the sound effects work in the scene, while Dorothy acts like a dead lady and throws a flower pot, working for the movie, as George invites Michael to his party. And this movie works as a comedy, but does it work as a Columbia classic? Somewhat, but not really, in my opinion. But don't get me wrong, this is so far a good film with some passion in it. Michael finds Ron and Julie there, as Ron comes off slimy, while Julie comes off a little mean, as Michael introduces himself to Julie while disgracing himself by getting champagne thrown at his face. And next day comes as Julie works on the next scene the next day, while Dorothy tells Ron she has a name and it ain't Tootsie, which is part of the title of this movie. It's Dorothy. And Julie invites Dorothy to a farm of her dad's place, and he goes to as Dorothy, and Sandy and Jeff tell Michael to not do it as he comes off as Dorothy to Julie's father's farm and spends Thanksgiving there while things go smoothly as they have Thanksgiving dinner, in which it feels lighthearted, which is a very good thing. Meanwhile, Julie's father witnessed Dorothy staring at Julie as they chill outside, and these scenes are smoothly filmed with very beautiful shots. Julie tells a humiliating story about her old man, and they start playing the piano and singing at the same time about Julie's mother named Mary. And Julie goes to sleep with her while her father and Dorothy talk about why they're glad Ron isn't here at the farmhouse. And they talk about men and sharing one another while Dorothy acts strangely and goes to sleep next to Julie. And she wakes up and chats with Dorothy about Julie's past, and the monologue by Jessica Lange works beautifully. And the next week comes, and Dorothy is called into Ron's agent's office as she promotes her to stay for another year, and he gets on the phone with George to get Michael out of there. And Julie calls Dorothy saying she's going out with Ron, and he comes by as Dorothy, and the dialogue is well written. Ron comes by Julie's apartment and asks Dorothy why she doesn't like him, and she answers honestly, and Ron answers it on his side of the story until Julie gets ready and Julie's baby cries. Amy, that's her name. She cries and she wakes up, and Dorothy tries to put her to sleep, and he falls asleep with Amy while Amy is out of her crib. And Julie gets home and is depressed, saying Ron broke up with her, and she feels lonely as Dorothy confronts her as she almost kisses her. And Dorothy tries to explain it to her when Julie says the same thing, and Julie tells Dorothy, goes out with Julie's father and goes to the dance floor as she wants to put him down nicely. And while they're out, he proposes Dorothy in his hand in marriage. And she walks out and sees John following her home, which is super creepy. But isn't it about time she exposed herself as Michael? And I'm just gonna say it now. This movie's a little too long. Like 10 minutes of it could be in the editing room floor. Despite I really like the movie, but in my opinion, it's a little too long. Michael gets home from disguising himself from Dorothy, and John sings as Dorothy lets him inside reluctantly for a drink. And John wants her to until Jeff comes home and interrupts them, while John wants to kiss Dorothy, but John leaves and Michael takes off with Dorothy's clothes. And Sandy comes to the door while Michael was in the shower, and Jeff takes the clothes off his clothes. And eventually Sandy comes in as Michael gives her chocolates with the card that was given to him earlier in the film, and so Michael confesses he's in love with another woman, and Sandy walks out telling him to not call her ever again. And we move on to Michael telling George he wants out of the show, and Dorothy comes into work hearing some bad news. And I honestly think this is falling apart by the last half of the movie. Dorothy gives Julie a gift for Amy and says she can't see Dorothy anymore because Julie is let go from the show as Dorothy is live on the TV, ad-libbing, and ruins Ron's show by talking about being a woman and shows herself as a man, exposing herself as Michael. And Julie is upset and shows it by punching Michael in the stomach. It walks around the park and gets a new production with him. Jeff and Sandy and Michael encounter Julie's father and gives him back his engagement ring and tells him he needed to work as he confesses he loves Julie until he buys him a beer. As we see her encountered by fans and sees Michael, and Julie walks away from him going after her, Michael does. And he tries to ask her out on a date as he needed to work, and he admits he's a better person with her than he ever was. While Julie walks with Michael and get to know each other, and the climax was pretty good, but how good was this movie? Let's talk about it in a rating. I'll give this movie a 8.0 out of 10. The performance by Dustin Hoffman is the best thing about the movie, while Bill Murray is hilarious in this, but Jessica Lange stole the show from them. And I know this is original as far as the story goes, but after seeing so many movies, the plot feels predictable. But this is the best example of any of the other movies that I've seen before and that have been done. And Michael disguised as Dorothy is the funniest thing in the whole movie. The writing in this is very good, and the cinematography is also very good, and the acting in this is tremendous, in my opinion. And the sound effects worked in scenes. And does this work as a Columbia classic? somewhat, but not really, in my opinion. But don't get me wrong, this is a good film with some passion in it. The movie feels lighthearted, which is a very good thing, and the monologue Jessica Lange gave worked beautifully. And this is a solid recommendation for the movie. And the dialogue is well written, and I really do like the movie but it's just a little too long, and 10 minutes of it could be in the editing room floor. But again, I really do like the movie, and I recommend people watch this and see what very bad movies have done with this material. And this is the best example of it. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with The Age of Innocence. And until then, go to the Columbia Classics.